Back in the 1950s, a well-groomed gentleman never looked like he needed a haircut or that he just had a haircut. Only his barber knew for sure. It's hard to find an old-school scissor master barber these days. Most live by the electric clipper. It's faster, and it does the job. Somewhat. Scissors are more of a personal touch. A waltz as opposed to a mambo. Which brings me to a painted sign in the window that says John's Barber Shop on 2nd Street out in Mineola on the island. Now, John, the original owner, sold the business to Victor back in the mid-1980s. But Victor never bothered to change the name on the sign. Why bother, he said. It's too expensive. And besides, if a customer comes back here a few times, I'll tell him my name is Victor. The shop had an old-world simplicity that I loved. Clean, but in dire need of a paint job. A worn-out section of the floor surrounded Vic's chair. Cash register that didn't register. There was a warm softness to his voice and smile as he wished me good morning. No backslapping or hugging. 3 barber chairs faced the mirror. Vic, who he always worked alone, planted himself at the center chair. On the walls were framed photos of sports heroes that reflected another time. Mickey Mantle, Eddie Arcaro, Johnny Unitas, Joe Pepitone, Sugar Ray Robinson, plus a few photos of the Islanders from the early 80s, Stanley Cup years. A tall jar holding a few combs slightly submerged in an aqua-colored liquid stood on a shelf next to a bottle of witch hazel. The jar with the word sanitizer printed across the front has been a barbershop staple since as long as I can remember. My father's lilac vegetal shaving lotion that I would pat on my face before 8th grade dances stands on the shelf next to a bottle of Vitalis. A black shaving cream dispenser that spewed out a hot lather for shaving nape and sideburns was set next to a few open straight razors. A leather razor sharpening strap hung from one side of Vic's chair. A radio that looked like a cathedral, set to an AM oldie station, always seemed to be playing the Bee Gees or one of those old groups whenever I was there. Back in the day, Vic would open his shop at 8 a.m. I would try to get there before 9. He'd either have somebody in the chair already or be tending to his 2 lemon tree plants that stood in the window. When he was good and ready, he'd gracefully motion me up into his chair. A clean, home-laundered sheet would then come in for a soft landing from my neck down to my knees, followed by the gentle touch of a tissued collar around my neck. Vic called my haircut the Jack Dempsey look, short around the sides and back, and just thin out the top. "You'll take your hair to your grave," he would tell me. "Oh, really? Thank you, Vic." While he worked away, he liked to reminisce about his days as a young man from Italy, plying his trade in a busy shop on Lexington Avenue near 86th Street. Said it was $1.50 for a haircut in those days, but those 50-cent tips would really add up. Those were the days, Jack. Prices were in harmony with the time. Around the holidays, he would always tell me the menu he and his wife would make for the Feast of the Seven Fishes on Christmas Eve. After 15 years of hearing it, I could recite it myself. Arriving at this classic barber shop in September of 22, there was a different sign on the window, closed. I stared in for a while, unspooling memories, furniture, fixtures, photos, all gone. The end of an era. A druggist came out from next door and said, Vic retired. The shop was sold. It's going to be demolished to make way for a new apartment house, just like the one across the street that eventually blocked the sun from his prized lemon trees. He was a gentleman, said the druggist. They don't make them like that anymore. How fortunate was I to be a patron of this old world trained tonsorial artist.